So you just picked up your kid from school and you're trying to knock out a few errands before you go home and cook dinner. I know it's been a long day. You're tired, I'm tired, the kid's tired, everybody's tired. And none of us have any time for any. The parking lot is so full, there's no space. Oh, right there in the front, a spot's opening up. If we could just get there. Oh, that guy saw me. He knew that was my spot. I'll show him. So whenever a bad guy shows up, Clark Kent would put on a cape and start to fly around. And Spider-Man, he would spin some webs and start to swing around. And oh, that green guy, he had a magic ring. So what's your superpower? Oh, the F word. So right there in the car, you transform from your secret identity of a good, responsible parent to what? The F man? Super F. The flying F. Your kid must be so proud, all the kids at school, and he's the only one with the superhero for a parent. At least that's what you thought, until the guy that cut you off, he says the F word back. Now what? You got to do something. Your kid's watching. So you whip out 2 F words, one in the form of a noun and the other in the form of a verb. You linguistic genius. Great Scott. He also has that superpower. Now what? We're at a complete standstill. I know what you're thinking. Brad, of all the things you could talk about in your videos, why are you making such a big deal about the F word? I'll tell you why. A few weeks ago, I heard a story about the making of one of those Marvel superhero movies produced by Disney, which is not unimportant to the story. Well, anyways, the real-life actor of that superhero included in the movie his real-life 7-year-old daughter, who was forced by her real-life dad, the Disney superhero, to say really sexually obscene things on camera. Oh, sorry. So imagine this little girl being forced by her dad, surrounded by a cast and crew of filmmaking professionals who are being paid a salary by Disney for their professional services of filming a 7-year-old girl being forced against her will of saying sexually explicit material. Mr. Disney cameraman, Mr. Disney boom mic man, how much money did Disney pay you to stand there with your mouth shut while another grown man forced a little girl to say sexually explicit material? It must have been a lot, because most self-respected men would never ever do that, not for any amount. They would intervene. And since it seems that the Department of Children's Services has not yet investigated Disney or any of these filmmaking professionals for this questionable parental, child exploiting, child labor, sexual thing, it occurred to me that perhaps our society, including institutions such as Disney and the superheroes themselves, have become quite comfortable exposing young children to sexually obscene material, among which it seems that the F word reigns supreme. As a matter of fact, the Disney superhero movie in question, according to IMDb, has 118 uses of the F word. But it's okay, right? Because you might argue that this particular Disney superhero movie, it's for adults and not for children. Huh. Which adults? Apparently adults who are entertained by watching small children say sexually explicit words under duress. So it's okay, right? Why do we say the F word? You do know that there are other words, right? Why this one? I mean, you know what it means, right? And I don't see the connection between that and the parking space. It's like we're brainwashed idiots. We're so obsessed with sex that no matter what happens to us during the day, by default, we just spout out the F word because apparently that's the only thing we can think of. Why is that? In researching for this video, I started down a rabbit hole about the origin of the F word and its historical use in movies until I finally realized that it doesn't matter at all whether it's a German word or an Old English word or even an acronym about some king. It doesn't matter. What matters is who we are and what's inside of us. Because when we open our mouths, it's what's inside of us that comes out. Remember our blessed Lord's words in the Holy Gospel. Not what goes into the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth. This defiles a man. What comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a man. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, fornication, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a man. Consider for a moment that life is very short, and so there is actually a limit to how many words we might actually speak within our lifetime. If you knew beforehand that you only had the opportunity to say 1 million words, how many of those words would you waste on the F word? Of the million words that you speak, which of those million will be the words that people remember you by? For example, JFK, MLK, Abraham Lincoln, Shakespeare, they all said millions and millions of words while they were alive. And while we've forgotten almost all of them, some few words remain in our memories. We remember, I have a dream, and ask not what your country can do, and 7 years ago. What do you want your children and grandchildren to remember you by? The F word? Boy, Dad sure could let them fly. My grandfather has been gone for almost 30 years, and I was very young when he was alive, so I remember very few of his words, and I cherish the few words I do remember. But of all his words, I think that there are 10 words that stand out above all the rest. And I did not hear these 10 words myself. I wasn't even born yet. One of my cousins told me the story long after he was gone. One day, when both of my parents were still teenagers, they knew each other because they lived across the alley from one another. Well, my grandfather looks across the yard to see my paternal grandmother mowing the lawn. He marches over there and knocks on the door to find my teenage father watching TV. He says, I don't want to see you around my daughter again. Well, apparently those 10 words had a dramatic effect on my father, who ran outside and took the lawnmower from his mother, and I believe she never had to mow the lawn again. This story, these words of my grandfather, I never want to see you around my daughter again. Years after he died, when I finally heard this story, they affected me because I had to reconsider the way I was treating the women in my life. And now, as I tell you this story, hopefully his words will affect you as well. So you see, in this sense, maybe our words truly are a superpower, in that they have the power to shape future generations. So if that's the case, then the question is, how are you going to use your power? Hopefully better than that Disney superhero piece of You know, we've had a remarkable couple of years. 5 years ago, who would have thought that we'd be here now? We shut down vaxes, masks, trans culture, mutilation of our children, boys and girls sports, and I hope the entire industrial war machine. That's yet to be seen. So what's our next move? What's the next thing we should focus on so as to make the future better and safer for our children? How about the sexualization of our kids and the corruption of our own minds through language? Stop saying the F word, not just in kids' movies or even all movies, but stop saying it in your own life. It's disgusting, it's demeaning, and our children deserve so much better from us. The Volkswagen van of the 1960s, painted with flowers and peace signs. Perhaps this is the perfect icon for progressivism. The kids who got into these vans weren't just leaving home, they were leaving behind the culture of their parents, their values, their traditions, to create a new world, a better world.